What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. We have my main man, Caleb, on, better known as Phoenix Resale. A lot of you guys probably saw the video him and I did that I was truly honored to be a part of. And I think that you did a tremendous job illustrating the hustle. And a lot of people on YouTube, they see the room full of clothes, they see the big numbers, they see the grails. But I think you did a really good job of showing everything that's behind you. Like you started the video at like 5 o'clock in the morning. We're already on the road, heading an hour away. So we'll get into that. We'll get into your business. We'll get into everything. But the last time we spoke on the channel here, it was like exactly a year ago from when this will be released. So what's been going on for the
Wow.
last year? Tell people a little bit about who you are and a little bit about your business and what you've been up to lately.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you a ton for having me on again, for having me out to Florida. It was
Mhm.
definitely an honor to get to see firsthand just a master at work. That's one of my favorite things that I get to do now. But about me, I am a video game reseller. I've been flipping video games mostly on Amazon for the last 6 years or so. Been on YouTube for 5 years, just documenting the journey. At this point, last year, our business did $2.6 million in video game sales on Amazon, and our goal for this year is 5 million. So far, we're looking like we're on track. We have some work to do in Q4, but we're definitely tracking towards it, which I'm stoked about. And then outside of that, when I'm not flipping games, I'm usually making videos either about my own resale business or getting to document other people's resale businesses and just learn from some of the best people to do it in various different physical goods and collectibles niches. So I've had the benefit of getting to watch and observe a lot of real masters of the craft like tech. And I think that's a bit of what we're going to get into a little bit later on.
Very good. So, all right, 2.7 million is a tall task. That's rare air for a lot of resellers. So, congratulations. How do you
Yeah.
double that in 1 year? I know you have your app that you've been working on for a long time, and I saw recently that you now have opened it up to accept every single game, which has got to be a massive undertaking. I guess controlling the app and making sure that stays up, making sure you're processing all of the orders, fulfilling the payments, and then you have to process it into Amazon and let them do the FBA. So how or what's the plan to essentially double the business year over year, which is pretty lofty goal.
Yeah. So I think one of the biggest questions that I and every reseller has to ask is what is the most efficient way to get more inventory? And so early on, I was getting all my inventory sort of one by one from pawn shops and some video game stores. And every once in a while, I would buy a collection, and that would kind of sustain me for a while. In the video games niche, and many people watching may be able to relate to this. Sourcing is most people's biggest challenge because it's so competitive.
Yes.
You might see some similar trends in like vintage clothing, right? Everyone out there is going to be looking for those like flashy all over prints from the 80s and the large graphics and the single stitch. Video games in general are very similar because pretty much every reseller knows that they sell very fast, usually
Yep.
have a pretty decent average sale price, and are easy to list, easy to ship. They're very standard, pretty easy to test. So a lot of folks are out there looking for these things. And so what I decided to try to do a couple years ago is create a way for other resellers to very easily sell us their video game inventory. Because since we sell on Amazon, we're able to get a good bit above market prices for a lot of games. So the prices that we pay for a lot of stuff is in the neighborhood of what people could net after fees and shipping on eBay anyway.
Right.
So I spotted that opportunity and was like, our margins don't have to be insane if we can do volume. So if we're selling a game, like maybe a game regularly on eBay goes for $60, we can sell it for 80 or like 65 after fees. Maybe we'll offer 50 because the average eBay seller could only get 50 or so after fees and shipping. We'll
Mm-hmm.
make 15 bucks a piece and just keep doing it at scale. So
Right.
the way that that system panned out is a website called myquickflips.com where people have been selling us at this point on the average week we're paying out in the neighborhood of about 30K, to resellers and collectors alike that are selling us either collections of games that they have as collectors, or they're resellers who are now seeing our bid prices, right, our buy prices, and hunting for those games to sell us. So, for example, like I think we pay $14 for a loose disc copy of Wii Sports. So now any like clothing seller
Sure.
or whoever that is out there, they're hustling at the flea markets anyway. Maybe they happen to come across a pile of video games because they're,
Yeah.
out there, they're pounding the pavement
Yeah.
and looking for stuff
$5.
anyway. They're like, oh, wait a second. Yeah,
Yeah.
it might be a couple bucks, it might be
Yeah.
$5. They're like, wait a
Yeah.
second. I can just flip it immediately to Caleb for a $9 profit, and I won't really have to stray outside my niche. I can kind of
Sure.
just pull the low hanging fruit whenever I know there's a killer deal. And that's what I'm hoping to do more of, just the bigger and bigger we grow. But you're right, it is an ambitious goal of trying to double that revenue this year. And the only way that we've been able to do that consistently is by leveraging technology and also the relationships that I've built over the last 5 years on the platform. So I think there's a lot to be said for the tech behind it. There's a lot to be said for just the reputation, right? And spending that much time giving people value in the form of my YouTube channel and genuinely showing people every step of what I'm doing.
Hmm.
So that when someone gets to the point of, I've got bills coming up, I'm looking to clear out inventory, I'm looking to purge the collection, I'm going to do business with someone. It may as well be Caleb because, he's been providing me either entertainment or educational value all along the way is the idea.
Very cool. And whenever you speak, your answers are so good. I always have like 5 different directions I want to go. So like this is always a challenge. But you brought up the technology part, and I have seen apps where like, and the apps are going to get crazy for the buy side and for the sell side. I've seen
Hmm.
apps that are pretty solid where like if you're at the flea market and you see a table worth of games, you can take a picture. You don't have to know anything about video games. It'll read all the titles. It'll give you the price charting price. And if you go, wait a second, I know Caleb is like 75% price charting or whatever you may be, and you could literally know nothing about video games, take a picture of a table and go, I'll take this one, this one, this one, and this one, match it up with the my quick flips, and right there you can just put together a box once a month and you can send it up. And I think like what do you see like on the horizon? Because I'm sure you're as much on the cutting edge of the technology as anybody because you've invested a lot of money in this app. But like from your perspective, with the apps coming out where you could literally take a picture of games and circle the ones you want, put them in a box, and then maybe I don't want to sell video games, but I'm not a fool,
Hmm.
so let me just pick these up for a couple of bucks at the thrift or the flea market and then send them over to you. Like, what do you foresee happening um in the future with that? And is that stuff that you're thinking about or maybe
Yeah.
strategizing about as the future comes?
It's an astute question. I don't want to give too much away, but I'm thinking a lot about it, and I would love to get to a point where people don't have to use an external app and then import that
Nice.
data to Quick Flips.
Nice.
I want to have that capability so that you can open up Quick Flips on your phone, scan it, it'll tell
Nice.
you immediately this is what Caleb is paying for everything, and you can just compare that price to the sticker price that you're seeing in front of you and have one
Nice.
less step involved.
So
So
we'll
I'm
leave that
hoping
there.
that's on the
Don't give
horizon.
too much. Don't give too much. But it's pretty funny. So like after you came down here, like a week after you were here, like I got presented a couple good video game buyouts, and I'm not known as someone who like will buy video games, but um, I'm always looking for the deal. But the when you go to the thrift store for clothing, you can expect like a 300% return. When you buy video games, like maybe you're expecting like 20% margin. The games, you have to pay up more. They do sell faster. They do have a catalog where they have all the information. But it's difficult to buy collections from collectors, whether it be the games, whether it be a vintage guy, because I've gone down that path too, where a guy's been collecting vintage shirts for the last 7 years. He's got all the great ones, but he wants 95% retail. It's hard to
Right.
do a deal. But I've done like 2 really good video game deals in the last couple of weeks, where one I had to pay 8,500 for a collection that's worth like 15,000. But like those are the margins you have to do
Mhm.
when it comes to video games. Whereas clothing, you could spend like 1,000 to have a $15,000 come up. So it's just it was a very eye-opening in terms of, because I knew for me, I had no bargaining power. I know how liquid the games are. I know what the market is. If I want this collection, I have to pay this price.
Hmm.
Otherwise, somebody else will. And then I had
Yeah.
another collection where I had to pay 5,200, and it was probably like, I don't know, 10,000, maybe 9,500, but like
Hmm.
paying 50% is like a whale of a deal inside of your niche compared
Hmm.
to clothing. You only have to pay maybe 1%, buy something for $1, sell it for 100. So I
Right.
guess, like, what kind of challenges do you face as someone? Because you ask anyone, like, everyone wants to sell video games, but they're
Hmm.
challenging because they're hard to find. And then when you do find them, they're usually priced up, and you have to pay, a good portion of sticker price in order to buy one disc, let alone several.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Some of the other issues that can arise, especially if you're selling on Amazon like we are, is that anything in the electronics category, you're likely to see a high return rate. So
Mm-hmm.
you can do all of your due diligence on your end, but if someone doesn't understand that their Nintendo is not reading pins well
You have
on
to jiggle
games,
it.
right, they might not know the jiggle method or the blow method to, clear stuff out. You're likely going to get a lot more returns, even if you are doing your due diligence. It might be
Mm-hmm.
like, the shoe category or jeans or something like that that has a higher than average return rate because people are particular about it. Um, and then another thing is, especially if you're getting into selling not just software, so games, but also hardware, right? The
Sure.
consoles and controllers, there's a whole process involved for testing and repair of those that we personally don't deal with. We cut that out of our business model because it's so involved and takes so much uh, just meticulous sort of esoteric knowledge, right? That
Mm-hmm.
has to be taught and trained and
Mm-hmm.
scaled up if you're trying to do it at scale, like we are to a bunch of employees, to the point where it just wasn't worth it for us. So we have a
Sure.
partner buyer that takes all of our consoles and controllers because I just didn't want to deal with the amount of knowledge that you have to accumulate, document, and train in order to. It's almost like a different niche
Yeah,
entirely. But if
absolutely.
you are out there and you're hustling, you're looking at like yard sales and flea markets, you're going to get both.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it helps to have some sort of outlet for both, whether maybe you're taking all the consoles to your local game store or you're selling them on quick flips or whatever you want to do. Um, that's another challenge that you may run into with the niche. But it's mostly going to be on the acquisition side of where do I find this stuff consistently?
Yeah. And down here in South Florida, like, video games are like an extinct species. Like, I could hardly find them. But and you were down here, I think we only saw one guy at a multiple flea markets that had some, and you were able to do a deal. So that was pretty cool. But like, we all start out like reselling as everything sellers. And we're all everything sellers. We just become a little bit more picky and particular and kind of whittling away at the everything that we do sell and just say no a little bit more. And, once upon a time, I did sell like my fair share of Nintendos. I sold N64s, I sold all of that. But for me, instead of doing the test, like you were saying, if a customer orders a Nintendo from you on eBay, there is an expectation of never-ending customer support. Like, if that thing
Right.
breaks 14 months from now, like, they're logging on eBay and they're asking you. So like they want tech support, they want instructions, they want you to hold their hand. And these things are from 1986. Like, they need a little love when you turn them on. And they need parts and pieces, they need testing, so on and so forth. And it hit me one day, and it said, you know what? A t-shirt doesn't need instructions. A t-shirt doesn't need never-ending customer support. A t-shirt doesn't need a part or a piece. A t-shirt is not going to arrive perfectly working. The customer opens up a return request. They ship back your N64 in a granola bar box, and then it becomes back to you broken. So like, the t-shirt can come back, it'll still be working. It doesn't need
Right.
instructions, and I could just resell it. So for me, that is a large reason why I did clothing, was because, like you're saying, like, the testing, the parts and pieces, like, you have to learn how to solder, like, you have to do everything, like, if you really, really want to do it correctly. But for the people that are willing to do it, like yourself and others, like, the payoff can be great. But there's a million ways to do it, and at the end of the day, all the money is green. So that's all that matters. So whether you want to do it that way, this way, a different way, that's all that matters. So when you came to Florida, and maybe tell everyone where you're from, but what kind of differences did you see between the markets down here and the markets where you are? Because everyone thinks as soon as you cross the Georgia Florida state line, like they hand you $100 bill worth of profitable inventory, like it just rains down from the sky. And you were
Really?
sourcing that is, they watch my videos, so that's what they think. They think the
Yeah,
profitable
yeah, yeah.
inventory is everywhere. You cross the line and there's just Filson jackets. There's Carhartt. It just rains from the sky. You get presented a bag of profitable inventory when you walk out of your house, which you did a really
Yeah.
good job of illustrating everything that goes through it. But you kind of spent a week here and you went to some pawn shops. We went to a couple flea markets. You did a couple things. I guess what was your takeaways from, thrifting in the Sunshine State? And I don't know, what did you think about it?
Yeah, so I'm from Kentucky, not too far north. Um, and I would say one interesting thing that I noticed is a good number of the flea markets that we went to. I mean, I think we only went to two,
We went to
but
two.
both of them were in these sort of like, I guess they're like poor areas that are directly neighboring rich areas. Would you say
Sure, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
accurate? At least one of them.
So Lake Worth is a stone's throw away from Palm Beach. Palm Beach is one of the most wealthy
Yeah,
areas in the entire world. Plant City is about 45 minutes to an hour outside of Orlando, where again, they do have, a couple bucks over there as well. The Plant City one
sure.
was very rural, more strawberries and pigs and turkeys in Plant City than
Right.
people. But the mixture of product is also very different. So the Lake Worth one, yeah, it's maybe 20 minutes from Palm Beach, but that's also the interesting part of Florida. From the coast, the beach, to as far west as you could go is like 15 minutes drive. Because after that,
Mhm,
it's the Everglades and you can't build over there. So, like,
mhm.
everywhere is very compact. So, you do have these very, like, affluent areas literally neighboring the most hardcore, brutal of brutal neighborhoods, literally across the street from each other. And it is interesting. There's a video out right now that contrasts West Palm Beach, the
Mm.
wealthy from the haves from the have-nots. I think it has like 3 million views, and it's only been out a couple of weeks. But that
Yeah.
that is how Florida is set up, where the wealthy people are by the beach, but you can only drive 15 minutes, and then you can't go any further west. So there are these pockets where there is a disparity between, you know, tens of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of real estate, and then the bottom of the bottom as far as real estate goes.
Yeah, so that was just like a random observation that, I thought was interesting, but the thing is, both of the markets that we went to, I just kept thinking, like, if I had come here on my own, I would have said, "This is a pretty standard flea market that, like, 1, in my niche, really isn't yielding a lot."
Mm-hmm.
Right? The first one that we went to, there was one video game deal for a few games that
Yep.
would net me like 15 bucks. The second one, I did do a pretty good deal with like the video game vendor there because we worked a bulk discount. He did maybe like 20% off for me, and I bought like 500 bucks worth of stuff. So those are the
Mm-hmm.
kinds of people that I really like to look for rather than the random one-offs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that said, the amount of inventory that you bought at both of those far exceeded what I bought. But it was in a way that I didn't necessarily expect.
I know the night before, we were kind of kicking ideas back and forth, and you gave me a lot of very, very helpful advice for my YouTube channel. And like I told you, when you talk, I'll listen, I'll implement. So you told me a couple of things to do. And then we were talking about, like, maybe like do like a challenge video or something. And you're like, how fast to make $1,000? And I said, Caleb, like that's gonna happen like in the first 3 minutes when we get there. And I don't know if you really took me seriously with that. But when we got to the flea market, you opened up the video with 101, 102, 103 before the sun even came up. And I
And
think that
that's not dollars in profit. That's number of items
number
for
of
anyone who
items
doesn't know.
at
Number of
$20 a
items
pop,
sourced. Yeah,
$20 a
in the
pop,
first
20.
5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And one of those was the dress that's worth like 14 or 1800 bucks. One of those 100. And I think also from the videos, and it's hard to like portray waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's hard to really like hammer that home. It's hard to hammer home 4 hours driving. It's hard to, hammer home the miles and the heat and all of that. And I think a lot of people also think that like I just kind of like bounce around to all these people that are holding a bunch of stuff for me. But that's just like the bonus that comes with it. I'm still trying to find my onesies and twosies, but I am absolutely focusing on the people, not the product so much. I want to focus on people that acquire the inventory. And the first one that we went to, I started with those by buying one item. And then several months later, now they're bringing 100 items. The second one that we went to, when it started raining, unfortunately, because we would have crushed it even more, Caleb, but it started raining. They had another 80 items. I started with them with one item. And I think you have to kind of like farm the people, like cultivate the land, plant your seeds, go back over there, be a good person. They have to want to do business with you. Otherwise, they're not going to give you the first pick. And that also takes work. So I guess like from that perspective, I don't think a lot of people cultivate the relationships in the manner that I show on the videos. And maybe you can speak to some observations, because that there is a total game changer. When you can wake up and I already know I have 300 pieces that are going to be there for me, and whatever
Yep.
else I get is going to be fine. How can you not get out of bed and be the first one at the flea market then?
It's a completely different ball game. The way, and this was one of my big takeaways that I wrote down from my time with you, is that when you're at the flea market, there are two kinds of people that are out hunting. There are the losers who are out hunting for items, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then on the other end of the spectrum, there are the winners, the experts who are actually hunting for sources.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just trying to find the single item, they're focused just as much on building the connection with the person who's selling them that item, saying, hey, by the way, I'm here every week.
Yep.
Or how often do you come? Or like, these are the brands that I love to buy. Anything that you find like this, I'll pay this price for.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's also a difference in terms of the losers and the experts' approach to buying specific items. So, one unique thing about your strategy is you don't haggle with these people, right? Whatever their price is per item, and normally it's very fair, you're either paying it or you're not. And you're
Mm-hmm.
signaling to them, hey, I'm happy for you to make your money. I'll pay this price. I'm just looking for more of it, right? Whatever you find, I'll keep buying. And you're having these strategic conversations with people all along the way. Most of them you've already had that conversation with, and they're, as you're showing up, pulling out totes of stuff that they have just for you. And most of the people, most of the beginners, the novices out there, they're going around, they're picking through these booths and finding one or two items, lowballing the person, trying to get them as cheap as possible, and then piecing out to try to go to the next booth. Right. But
Mm-hmm.
that's not, it's game time, right? You're rock and roll, but you're also taking the time to let the person know this can be a regular thing, right? I'm going to be here.
That's right. And I think like for me, when I see a booth, I see the items, but I also try to evaluate who the person is and where they're getting the items. So that way I know like
Mhm.
if we can take this relationship like to the next level. And I think that um after like you've left and my friend Arvin was here from the UK for 2 weeks, after he left, like a lot of reflections that I've seen, and just paying the price has made me millions of dollars. And I noticed something a couple of weeks ago. I arrived early and a lady had a tote full of hats over there. And she said they were $6. I said, okay, thank you. And I grabbed two. When someone says six at the flea market, they really want $5 because they're already putting in a cushion. So I paid $12 and she kind of like hesitated and was waiting for like, well, are you going to say two for 10? But I didn't. And you know what she did after I gave her $12? She said, I have another tote in the car. Where if I didn't pay the
Uh-huh.
$12, if I did not pay that $12, I would have been up the road and she would have never pulled out that extra tote. But because I paid her price, she's happy to do business with me. Where if I didn't pay
Right.
the price, she's going to hold out on those items and leave them for somebody else. But if I'm paying the price, hey, I have more of this stuff. Just keep coming back. I can bring more, rather than kind of like getting down on the price. And then they're going to wait for another opportunity from somebody else. So just like that extra dollar opened me up to like 100 or 200 more dollars of items where she would have let me walk if I would have said, would you take $3? Would you do 2 for $5? Will you do 2 for $10? She wouldn't have even thought to bring out the other tote for me.
That's so true. And just those couple of dollars is really what it can take to take you from just a regular buyer to
Hmm.
an actual business partner for a
I
lot of
think
these
so.
people, right? Especially if you're doing larger deals. So, especially on your first deal with someone, seeing that initial amount as almost like a partner tax, right? That you're paying in order to get in this person's good graces and rise to the top of their list instantly.
Hmm.
Gosh, imagine getting something that valuable for a couple bucks. Or if it's a larger deal, maybe you're in the video game space, right? That's the difference between offering 40 and 60% of market value,
Sure.
right? So it might actually be, if it's a large deal, a few $100 that you have to pay in order in that partner tax to rise to the top of their list. But oh my gosh, over the course of a lifetime for a business, that can be tens of thousands of dollars that you just made yourself.
Absolutely. And like everyone that I buy from, I pay the same price as everyone else, but like I would even pay a couple dollars more per piece to get the first hack at it before everybody else. Because like you said, the person that goes to the flea market and they look at the table after I look at it, you're right, there's nothing there. It's gone. Like a lot of the great items didn't even see the light of day on the table because they've already been picked through and gone. And that right there is like such a humongous head start over everybody else where you get the first pick. It goes through you, you pick, and then it goes out to the table, and then it goes out to the rest of the world. But like, there's not good stuff anymore to the rest of the world. And how many times do you go out to the flea market before you keep going and you can't find anything because it's already been grabbed from the back of a car or before it hit a table? And that's also a way to like eliminate the competition. And something recently, like with Arwen, so he buys a lot of Hokas and On Clouds, the shoes. So we have settled up on a price with one of the vendors, and every single time I go, I pay this price. I don't negotiate. I don't get them down. If I can do a shoe, I can. If I can't, I can't. No problem. But what has happened is he's told other people that I buy these shoes at this price, and now at
Mm,
this flea market, there are no Hokas and no On Clouds throughout the entire market. So what they're
wow.
doing is he told his friends that I pay this price, and he has a bunch of people running around and buying every single Hoka and On Cloud that is under this price that I'm happy to
Yep.
pay, that they are now an extinct species at the flea market because everyone knows, bring them back to this guy and he'll pay this price. And I see him running out there in the morning. If they're on a table, I keep walking because I know it's going to come to me anyways. And I'm happy for them to make their 5 or 10. I hope they make $20. I don't care if they can get them for $1, not my problem. I'm happy to pay this price. And now there's like
Hmm.
an army of people going out there picking up the items and then bringing them to me at our designated meetup location every single time that I go there. And on your video, something that was very surprising, the comments were like overwhelmingly, glaringly positive, aside
Oh
from the
yeah.
people who go, oh, all that stuff must be stolen. That means you've never been to a flea market. The people at the flea market, they work the flea market. They go to other vendors, they go to the bins, they go to Goodwill, they go to estate sales, they pick dumpsters, side of the road, wherever they have to go. They are getting
Yep.
inventory. Just their market is the flea market, where my market is eBay, your market is Amazon. And you can create an army of people as long as you treat them well and cultivate the relationship that know what you buy, and they're going to go out there hunting for it, and it'll be there every single week. So long as you are investing in their business, they will invest back into their business, and that investment into their business, as long as they make money, I make money. When I make money, they make money. And when they make more money, I make more money. And when I make
Hmm.
more money, they make more money. And it just snowballs and kind of ladders up, one back and forth. And when I started my channel, I did it on purpose, far away with no connections. And now I have the connections, and you're starting to see 100 pieces, 200 pieces. Give it another year. You're going to see people at 500 pieces a week, 1,000 pieces a week. And I'm going to ladder up with them back and forth, build their business, build my business, so on and so forth.
So true. Yeah, that idea of having an army of people that is sourcing for you
Mm-hmm.
is one something that, like, that's why I built Quick Flips, is like I
Yeah,
want one guy
100%.
at the flea market, the video game guy, to go around and now be able to pay every other vendor $10 for loose Wii Sports because he knows he can flip it to me for 14. We both make our money,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's not happening just at my local flea markets, but all across the
All of
country
them.
is
Perfect.
the idea,
Yeah.
right? But here's the thing, going back to the point of like, you only get to that place if what you're really on the hunt for, what you're farming, what you're mining is relationships rather than items. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have that perspective the whole time, or you're not going to become that guy for people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, like I said in the beginning, and I didn't go too much into it, I assess the person in the booth. I assess their business. I figure out very quickly where they get their inventory from. Oh, this one goes to the bins. I need to saddle up with them. Oh, this one
Mm,
does house cleanouts or storage units. I need to saddle up with them for a different kind of item. I need to saddle up
mm,
with this person because maybe they have a rag house connection. I need to saddle up
mm,
with this person because they get wholesale from Costco. And there's one item at Costco that I would love to buy every single time you get it. So when you get it, I'll purchase it. So I kind of look at everyone's business and see where are they getting the inventory and how that could be best for my business. So like for a storage unit guy, when I walk up to a table or a spot and I see old trophies, I see a VCR, I see old VHS home videos, I see garbage bags full of clothes, I see a bunch of mismassing totes. I know this person does house cleanouts. I know this person buys storage units. When I walk up to a booth and I see someone who has all beautiful presentation folded on hangers, great brands, I know this person goes to the bins. So we have to be able to assess and identify where they're getting their inventory from for a couple of reasons. One, which means that they're going to have more inventory. Two, which means they're going to be back. Three, they already know what to do. People ask me that question all the time. Do you train them? No. I find people that are already experts in what they're doing and just pour
mm,
gas on them to go out and get more. And if
mm,
we can do this where we know, and something else very important, I already know what they pay for the item. So I have the expectation of what I can pay. And that's why I generally don't have to negotiate because I already know what they've paid for the item and I already know what price they're going to tell me just by going to the flea market so much. So like if you buy something this big, it's $1 at
mm,
the flea market. You buy something this big, it's $5. You buy something this big, it's $10. You buy a shirt at the flea market, it's 1 to 5. There's not a lot of shirts in the 5 to 10 bucket. The
mm,
jackets are 5 to 10. A big jacket is going to be $20. And once you can figure out these price buckets, you can figure them out based on who the person is and where they're getting their item. People that go to the bins, they don't sell by brand, they sell by weight
right.
because they have to pay more for the heavy jacket. So the heavy jacket is $20. It doesn't matter if it's a Target brand or if it's Louis Vuitton. They pay by weight.
Mm,
Lululemon from someone who goes to the bins is $3 because it's very lightweight.
yeah.
And if you can figure out what their costs are, what their business model is, it makes it so much easier to form that partnership. And you already know what the price is. Like you're shooting fish in a barrel. How much is this? 3. You could say it at the same time as them. So you are prepared, so you know how much to pay. But you just have to take like an assessment of the entire booth, take an assessment of the vendor, see how they're set up, and that's kind of how I get my foot into the door. And like you mentioned earlier, like I have good conversations with the people. I am generally interested in them. I generally care about them. I want their business to do just as great as mine. But for me, I never ask, hey, can you hold stuff for me? I never
Mm,
ask, hey, go get XYZ brand. I never do that. I'll have someone that's my Lululemon guy. If you're great at getting Lululemon, just get as much as you can. I'll have a guy that could be Hoka and On Cloud guy. Just get as many as you can. But they are smart enough to see that you're serious, you have an expertise, you're going to be consistent, you're a likable person to do business with, and they engage. And when they engage, it's like dating. If you are on the hunt, it's a turnoff. If they're on the hunt too strong, it's a turnoff. So I always let them get to the point where they're comfortable enough to say, hey, are you going to be here next week? If so, I'll hold the stuff.
mm,
And that's
mm,
always worked every single time. Versus my first day there saying, hey, you're holding a bag for that guy, hold a bag for me next week. That doesn't
right.
work. That part doesn't work. So you have to kind of take the relationship slow. And there's one I'm working on right now where I wish it would move a little bit faster, but I'm letting it happen when it happens. Guy has great stuff. I know he has a
Interesting.
warehouse. I know he has a store, but I'm not
Uh-huh.
going to ask for the phone number. But he's starting to hold the hats for me. He's starting to let me
Mm,
go through the clothes first. Next week, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I'm going to be at his warehouse and I'm going to be cleaning them out. but I take it slow and I let things happen when they're supposed to happen, just so everyone is comfortable. Just so it's when it's their decision, it's much more beneficial versus when it's my decision. This is what I
Mm.
want to do.
Yeah, and that if that's the tack that you're taking, and it does line up with what I saw, yeah, it's very unforced. Uh, and I think what it comes down to is just that, like, what talks the loudest is just the money, right? It's the consistent deals, it's the paying their price,
Mhm.
and every time you show up, more money goes in their pocket. That's what puts them in the mind frame of, how can I get this guy more stuff? How can
How
we
can I
do
get
more
more
deals?
stuff?
To the
Yes.
point where you don't even have to ask.
That's right. That's right.
That's great.
And it doesn't take a lot of money to do this and get started with this. So a good example that I had with Arwen, the Hokas over there, let's say they're $20. Everyone in here can buy a pair of Hokas for 20 and sell them for 60. Every single person can do this. Every single person in here can probably buy a pair of Hokas for 20 and sell them for 60 within 1 week. So
Mm.
you go to the flea market with $20, you sell them for 60, you go back and you buy three more. You turn that 60 into 180. You go back over there and you buy nine more. You turn that nine into $560. You turn that 560 back into, I don't even know how many pairs we are, but we're only 3 or 4 generations into this flip before you have so much money where you can
Yep.
afford to clean off the whole table, so long as you're doing it correctly and you're buying items that afford you the margin and they're out there, and you're buying items that are going to flip fast. So just in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe 5 weeks,
Hmm.
you can have enough money in your bankroll to go out there and clear off the whole table if you want to.
Can I tell you another takeaway that I had from the trip?
Please, because a lot of people see me like this. I'm here performing a job. I'm here performing a duty. I'm on YouTube performing a job. I have an obligation to do so. But I'm much more outside of this, and not a lot of people we've hung out in person, but you and I have hung out in person, and I think you're a very cool, likable guy. I had a lot of fun with you, but a lot of people don't get to see kind of like behind me performing the duty. So I think when Arwen was here, he was able to articulate a lot of stuff that was very helpful to a lot of people, and you're able
Mm.
to articulate things very well. So maybe you have some helpful tips for the fine folks at home as well.
Yeah, appreciate. I mean, I observed a lot of things that have really helped me since then. So I'm thrilled to get to share it. But this
You
is
as
the
well. You
time.
had
If you're,
takeaways too.
what's that?
You had takeaways too.
Oh yeah, I wrote them down.
Oh,
Got plenty of them. So if you're a note taker, if you're listening, now's the time. Get out your sticky note, your iPhone
uh-oh.
note. The first one was uh, losers look for items, right?
Mm-hmm.
Experts hunt for sources. Experts
That's right.
hunt for relationships.
Mm-hmm.
The second one was when tech is sourcing, he wastes minutes to save hours.
Go on.
Wastes minutes to save hours. And I say waste kind of in quotes because it's really spending minutes. But what I mean by that is both of the flea markets that we went to were pretty far away. I think
Yes.
45 minutes and an hour or so. And
Yeah. The
that feels
first one
extra
was an
long.
hour. Yep. The first
Uh-huh.
one was an hour. The second one was 3 hours away to the hotel, and then 1 hour away from the hotel. So four
Oh,
hours
that's
was the
right.
second one. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Um, so an hour drive and a 4 hour drive, which
Mm-hmm.
feels especially long at 5 in the morning when you're getting up to be the first one there.
That's right.
And as we were on it, I was just thinking to myself, like, man, if you, even the people who are hustlers, right? The people who have that dog in them to get up that early and be the first one at the flea market, they're a lot of them are going to be pretty hesitant to do that and also tack on a 1 or 2 hour drive to the beginning of it to get to a flea market that might be marginally better, right? That might
Mm-hmm.
give them somewhat better chances. But
Mm-hmm.
you've identified that that 1 hour gets you so much more inventory just to go to the right flea market with the right connections that it saves you far more than that amount of time on the back end because you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to source as much.
Mm-hmm.
So taking the
So
time necessary to go to the best sources can more than make up for itself multiple times over in terms of the time that you're able to save.
I have a lot of philosophies around this. Philosophy number one is I say it very often. most knowledge, most opportunities. And I want to give myself the most opportunities. All any of us could ask for is an opportunity. If we're putting ourselves in the position, like let's say you and I, you're looking for video games, I'm looking for clothes, and we go to, a retreat out in the wilderness, we're not going to find anything. Like we have no opportunity. We've done ourselves a disservice. So that's the wrong place for us. If you're looking for shoes and you go to an antique festival, that's the wrong place for you. If you're looking for antiques and you go to SneakerCon, that's the wrong place for you. You haven't given yourself an opportunity. So I want to give myself the most amounts of opportunities, meaning I'm not scared to go to two flea markets in one day, one an hour this way and one an hour all the way back this way. I want to give myself the most opportunities because if you want to scale doing this, you have to get more items. And there's only two ways to get more items. The first way is you go to the same thrift store you've already been going to. And now that you've accomplished most knowledge, you're getting all the gold medal items. If you only go to this thrift store, what is your alternative? They're out of gold medal items. Now you have to get silver medal items. Now you have to get bronze items. Now you have to get wood, aluminum, paperclip. Like you have to scale this way. And when you scale this way, your margins shrink and your sell through expands. Or you can go to more places, expand this way, and continue doing what? Only get the gold medal items. Just you have to drive one more hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 more minutes to one more thrift store, whatever you have to do. So you can expand wherever you're at this way, which is smaller margin, longer sell through, less quality, inferior items, or you can expand this way and just keep getting all the bangers that are going to sell for high profit, that are going to allow you a huge margin and are going to sell very quickly. So like you're saying, I will waste minutes to save hours, days, better for my business because the items are going to sell faster. And when they do sell, it actually matters, not a $3 sale that took 18 months. So my philosophy in terms of scaling is always this way. It's never this way. And that is why I'm not afraid to go to 55 thrift stores. That's why I'm not afraid to have a thrift route an hour away. I'm not afraid to go 4 hours away. I'm not afraid to go 3. I'm not afraid because I want to get all the best items versus whatever they have presented to me. I'm just going to accept that and scale this way rather than this way.
When I was sourcing pawn shops primarily for inventory, I would only source Lexington, the city that I'm in, every 2 weeks. I would never source more than that because it's not enough time for it to replenish. In the off weeks, I would drive an hour and a half away for a day trip, either to Cincinnati in the north or Louisville, a little bit west of us, because I was only going there once a month to each of those places, and they had more pawn shops, video game stores, sources in general that I could get to in a given day. And I think a lot of people would see that drive and be like, oh, I don't want to, that's going to be like a solid 15 or 16-hour day. I'm going to have to show up there at 10 when the pawn shops and game stores start opening. And then I'm going to have to go through dinner if I want to, hit my 12 stops or whatever. And that's just what you have to do if you want to give yourself as many at bats and quality at bats as possible.
I agree 100% with all of that there. And that right there is probably one of the biggest secrets that I have is that I scale this way and continue to get the best items versus just going, like if we came on here and we said, okay, this is the advice. Never mind where the best items are. Don't worry about where that is and only go to the place you're most familiar with, that's closest to your house and it's the most convenient, and only go there at the most convenient time. Never mind where the best items are. Don't go there. Just go to the closest, most convenient whenever you want and only do your sourcing there. That would be ridiculous to tell people, but that's what people are doing. They're disregarding where the best items are and only going to the closest, most convenient, least amount of times. And that totally stunts your business and hurts your business.
Yep, for sure. Be comfortable wasting minutes so that you can save yourself hours.
Absolutely. Because you got two choices. You can have a hard sourcing life and an easy selling life, or you can have an easy sourcing life and a really hard selling life. I'll be
Hmm.
a hard sourcer and let my items sell easily.
Totally. Could not agree more. Um, the third one that I had that actually was a bit of advice that I had learned just before coming to Florida that really got driven home for me watching how you operate is the idea of never count the other guy's money.
That's
Never
good.
count the other guy's money. And I saw this emulated from you both on the buying side and on the selling side. So we already
Okay.
talked about how at the flea market, you're not haggling with people. You're not trying to lowball. You're paying exactly the price that they want because if they're making money, you're actually happier, right?
That's
Because
right.
it's more likely that they're going to do business with you in the future. But we haven't talked about on the selling side, and this is especially pertinent for your current operation because you're selling almost everything that you sell wholesale, right?
Hmm.
Besides your mini hat store,
Hmm.
you're tossing inventory into these huge gaylords of this gaylord is this price and this one is 10 and this one is 20. It's these like very broad categories and you're throwing items into the $10 bin that someone else might sell for 70 or 80.
That's right.
And I'm like, Tech, this is great. I mean, the amount of margins the other person is making way more than you are on
Uh-huh.
every single item.
Yep.
Does that not bother you? And you were like, I'll get more.
That's right. I'll
You're
get
out of
more.
the stage. You have hustled so hard for all of these years that you don't have to optimize to squeeze every single dollar out anymore.
That's right.
You can just sell the way that you want to sell, which is pretty much just sourcing and then, throwing into bins for someone else to take the photographs and do the listing and customer service and shipping.
Hmm.
And you have gotten to a point where not only are you refusing to count the other guy's money on the buy side, but also on the sell side. It's okay for you to only make $4 on an item when the seller is going to make 30 because you're so good at getting more. And as a result of that, you've been able to scale your operation to a far greater number of items moved per week than one person would ever otherwise be able to do
Hmm.
because you're willing to wholesale stuff out, let other people make good money so that you can live the kind of lifestyle that you want to.
Yeah, and I think that kind of like the ladder approach that I have on the buy side is the same exact ladder approach that I have on the sales side to a fault and to a detriment. Where, like, for the last 6 months, I have not been able to take on any new wholesale clients or customers because my current reoccurring customers are doing so well. They're growing their business that whenever I get extra, it just goes to them. So, like, the
Hmm.
latter approach is undefeated on the buy side and on the sell side because if they make money, they're going to spend it with me. And if they
Yep.
spend it with me, I'll go out and get more. They'll make more money, and then so on and so forth. And I've started with people who were buying, one pallet every 3 months. Now they buy one pallet a week. I've started with people who were doing
Wow.
$3,500 a month that now do $50,000 a month in like a year and a half. And what do you think they do with all of this money? They pay their bills and reinvest it back into their business, which is an investment into my company. And that's why I can't take on any new clients because they're just keep building up their business. And I have to keep up with them because the items are so good and they're making so much money, which is excellent. You cannot do a wholesale operation without reoccurring customers. And if the customers didn't reoccur and I had to acquire a new customer every single time I got a pallet, it wouldn't work. But if I know,
Mhm.
okay, I have 4,000 pieces, they're already sold. And so what if I make $4 each? There's 4,000 pieces. Who cares?
Right.
How much money
Yeah.
does one guy need? And just
Yeah.
send it up the road, let them make all the money. They'll come back to me with it. It's okay. I know the money's not going to be gone. It's going to come back to me. And then I'll sell 5,000 pieces, 6,000 pieces, so on and so forth. So um, that's a very astute observation you had there is that look, everyone has to make money. And if everyone is making money, you'll never have a worry and you'll never go out of business.
Yep. And it's even okay, God forbid, if the other person is making more money than you,
That's how
right?
it's supposed to be.
If anything, that compounds someone's goodwill so quickly that
Yes.
you're just that much more likely to get ahead in your business way faster. If you can get to the point where you have people beating down your door to do more deals with you on the buying side or the selling side, you're going to do just fine.
Just fine. That look, I have another famous quote that's kind of stuck on in the group. It's some of the money all the time versus all of the money some of the time. And if I get some of the money every single time versus you getting all of the money one time, I'm making way more money. So some of the money all the time beats all of the money some of the time, every time.
So true. And the fourth big takeaway that I had written down is something that you actually said at the start of this podcast, which is just go. You have a very short delay period between when you decide that something's a good idea and when you do it. A lot of people, especially like as you're starting a business, it's kind of scary. There are a lot of unknowns. It seems like a good idea, but a lot of people are prone to feel like I've got to do more research. I've got to watch more videos. I need to gain more knowledge. When in reality, the way to gain knowledge is through doing it, not the other way around.
Absolutely.
And this is something that you have understood intuitively, not only on your resale business, but also with the podcast and with starting the YouTube channel. Everything that you've started, you've done so very quickly so that you can get to the point of getting the actual knowledge through experience much faster, while a lot of your would-be competitors are still dawdling, trying to, take the courses and get the advice and DM people for tips and whatever. You've already made 16 mistakes. And so you're much further along in the process of learning how to actually do something because your philosophy is just go.
Yeah. And when Arun was here for a couple of weeks, he must have peppered me with 10,000 questions. I answered all of them. They were great questions. He's very astute, great questions. But towards the end, my answers started to get more and more and more of, you'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. Meaning, go do it. And when something happens, you will figure it out. Like for me, I don't have all the answers. I have an idea of what I want to do, but ask me how I'm going to get there, and I have no idea. Like if you have a plan, plans don't always go how they're supposed to go. You're going to go down. You're going to go up, you're going to go down. But as long as you are going to the right and going up, that's all that matters. So like when Arwen was here, he would ask me a bunch of questions and I would just look at him and go, you'll figure it out. And I could tell him every single thing that he's going to encounter and he's going to go through and he's going to do this and that. But until the day that he actually goes through it and he actually has to figure it out, nothing that I verbalize matters at that time. He's got to figure it out. He's got to problem solve. Like Mike Tyson said, you got to get punched in the mouth in order for you to figure out what you actually have to do. And for me, I'll just figure it out. I figured out reselling by buying one item and it sold. And I bought it again, it sold again. And I said, okay, let me buy two. Those two sold. And then I just started buying that brand forever. I just figured it out. You just have to figure it out. You don't have to have it all figured out today, but you do have to figure it out, and you will figure it out by doing, implementing, because you could have all the knowledge, all the book smarts, and never implement, and you will find 0 items. You can implement everything, but know nothing, you're still going to have 0 items. So you got to implement and figure some stuff out. Implement, figure some stuff out. And it's a trial and error basis. And with any business, especially this business, it's a marathon, not a sprint. A lot of people think it's get rich quick, but it's not. It is a lot of marathon. You're working today for something to sell in 9 months. It's not money today. It's 9 months money. It's 3 months money, 6 months money. But a lot of this, you just got to figure out. And, talk to people, but implement. Don't just talk to people for the sake of talking to people. Talk to people, implement, go out and do, and figure it out. You'll figure it out, because my figure it out is different from yours. And everyone's going to have a different figure out kind of thing that works for them or metric. But yeah, just go. We wake up in the morning and it's go time, Caleb. Like there's no time for chatterboxing. We wake up, it's go time. When everything's done, when it's dark time, then we can go to sleep. But throughout the day, we will figure it out, my friend.
There are a lot of really crappy YouTubers with really amazing equipment.
Sure. And here's a crappy one with nothing right here. I got nothing, but I press play.
It's a crappy background, but this podcast is going to get 10,000+ views because the content is good, right? Because you put in the reps. When I started my channel, my first 300 videos were filmed on a GoPro with no external audio.
Mm-hmm.
While a lot of other people starting a channel at the time were
Yep.
doing they're watching all the videos and they're buying the super nice DSLR and they're messing with all the settings and they're getting their
Mm-hmm.
mic just right and the quality is amazing, but there's no substance there because
Sure.
they haven't actually put in the reps to figure out what makes a good video.
Absolutely.
And while
That's right.
they're doing the research, right, I'm getting under the bar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Putting in the reps to get those the experience required to gain real knowledge, uh, which I think is a big reason why my channel has had the slow and steady growth that it has over the years. Uh, because I think that's a trait that we share, the philosophy of get the bare minimum that you need to start and go.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you gave me a little heat on the video about my low cost, no cost philosophy. You called me out for my warehouse having a hole in the wall that was already there when I got there. But I am low cost, no cost mentality. And if it
Yeah.
works and if it's functional, that's all we need to do, because I too have seen a lot of resellers that get $1,000 camera before they make a listing. They get a $300 setup. They get a mannequin. They get studio quality photography lights. You don't
Mm-hmm.
need that. Throw an item on the ground, list it, and if it sells, do it again and work your
Yeah.
way up. So when you know better, you could do better. When you can afford better, then you can get better. But like, you do not have to have a reselling business that scales into profitability. You should be able to be profitable day one, sale one, and then make these incremental improvements to your business. You don't need $10,000 worth of equipment before you jump in and list your first item. Just list it. My business is built on scrap lumber, PVC, and cardboard. That's all you need. That's the
Mm-hmm.
tippity top. So like, if you have anything, or you're buying anything more than that, it's great, but it is not needed. You do not need that to do this. And that's one of the beautiful things that, it is available to everybody, no matter where you come from, no matter how much money you have today, and do as good as you can. I used to take pictures on the ground with daylight. That's the best I could do at that time. But guess what? If you have good items, they'll sell on the ground in the dark, so long as you have good items. That's the moral of the story. So get good items, list them the best that you can, and when you can afford to do better, when you know how to do better, just do better. And that's half the battle right there. So Caleb, let's just take it home like this. The video that we did should have like 2 million views by the time this comes out, which is absolutely mind-boggling for me. And
Yeah, it's crazy for me too that my my videos don't normally do that. So it's a testament, I think, to the knowledge and value you provided.
you did a great video. And one of the most common feedback that I've gotten was, I didn't even know it was 50 minutes, which is a testament to like how good
Mm-hmm.
the video was. And I watched it once. And so let me just take people behind the curtain. So a couple months before this, I get a random text message from Caleb and goes, "Hey, I'm coming down to Florida. You want to shoot a video?" And I go, "Sure." And then after I go, "Uh-oh." And so, all right. So he doesn't say anything for a couple of months. And then a week before, he goes, "Okay, I'll be at your house at this day." I go, "Okay." And for me, I know you want to go to the flea market. If I flop at the flea market, I'm toast. Because here I am. I'm supposed to be the greatest at the flea market, all of this stuff. So I know for me, like, I have a little bit of pressure here. We got to find something. And not every day at the flea market is great. So, all right. So, okay, Caleb's coming. He's coming. He's this. He shoots this video. He does it. We actually kind of did it backwards, because we went to the thrift store first. So when you left, you're like, "Yeah, I'm going to open it at the thrift store." And I'm like, okay, like I like visualize this thing in my head. And then Caleb leaves and I don't hear anything from him. And I reach out and I say, "Hey, Caleb, like, if you need any additional footage, let me know. If you have any questions, let me know." I don't hear nothing. Caleb responds back, "Yeah, sure. Okay." I don't hear nothing for like a month and a half. So I know this video is out there. I have no idea. Is this going to be a hit piece? Like, what is this going to be? And then the video, he texts me the day before, "Hey, video's dropping tomorrow." I go, "Do you have like a preview link?" Nope.
Did I say that?
No, you say, "Yeah, it's a scheduled video, so there's not a private link." And
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
go,
yeah.
I go, "Okay." So I had to watch it with the world. I have no idea what this video is going to be. All I know is 5 months ago, Caleb said he's coming down. And a month and a half ago, we shot this thing. And here I am ready to watch it with the world. And the next thing you know, after 7 days, this thing's got over 1 million views. And we all like think like, man, I would love to have a video of 1 million views. Caleb, there's a lot that comes with a video of 1 million views, my friend. Like, I love it all. My DM has been popping. My comments have been popping.
Oh,
So
that's
many
amazing.
people have been eyes open to reselling. It
Hmm.
has been an absolute whirlwind of like a very simple man that I am, where like
Hmm.
so many people this video has resonated with. And I just want to say thank you once more. Like, I am truly, truly honored that you had the thought to come down here, because I do think that what I do and all the other resellers do, I think everybody can do it. Like, it's very inclusive. Like, it doesn't take a lot of money. You can start with $1. You can start with no money and just go curb alert and just get stuff out of the trash. I've sold an Apple II computer in the trash for $250 the same night that I listed. So like, you don't need any money. But like, a
Hmm.
lot of people don't know about this. And like, it's really, really exciting the amount of people that have reached out and they go, tell me everything I need to know. And I'm like, well, geez, that's a lot to do on my phone over Instagram, but I'll try my best. But again, I just want to say thank you. And I just want to say that like, it was a little bit nerve wracking. Not no fault of you, but just for me, I'm like a worrier. But that's pretty much how it went. 6 months ago, I'll be there. 1 week out, I'm coming here. Radio silence, pretty much, and I just go, I hope this is gonna be good.
Oh man, well, in the future I'll definitely have to
No, no,
do
no,
a
it
little
was
bit better
good.
on the communicating.
No, no, no,
But
no. That's how it needed to be. And no, I'm just saying it was like, because I'm a worrier and I like to plan. I like to know what's gonna happen, and I had no idea, dude.
well, I did at least tell you I think this edit is going to take a while
You did, yeah.
because I'm not used to normally my videos like I'll just shoot them like in a day. But
Mm-hmm.
the plan going in was I want to kind of document the course of multiple locations, which is more ambitious than I normally do, right? There's the flea market, and then I want to catch you at the thrift, and then let's go to your store and the warehouse, and then another flea market just in case. And there's the question of like, how does this all fit together coherently?
Yeah.
So for the first time in I don't know how long, I edited the first 20 minutes of the video myself because I had such a clear like idea of how I wanted it to flow.
Yeah.
And then I typed out this like multi-page document to send to my regular editor, Riff, saying what I wanted done with the rest of it. So, anyways, apologies it took so long to
No,
come together, but I
no,
am
but I
definitely
knew it
happy with
was
the
gonna
result.
take long because you said you released like one video a month. So I knew it was gonna take long, but like the
Yeah.
suspense was killing me because like I have no idea what's gonna happen here. I had all my faith and trust in you. But it's been a heck of an experience, that's for sure. And I don't know how the heck you do this all the time, where like you come up with these beautiful videos. And like one of the things that I took away from you was that for me, like you said, like I'm just go. And I think that I'm pretty good at like figuring out the roadmap like pretty instantly. Like, okay, this is gonna
Mhm.
work, go. For you, I don't know how any other way to describe it, but like you're good at figuring out the roadmap, but also like every single punchline that you want to hit along the way. And there were times where we were driving, 4 hours and you're just typing away on the keyboard. And I'm like, all right, I'm not going to disturb them. And then after you're done, I'm like, we talking, you're like, yeah, I'm just typing some questions for later. And like, I don't know when those questions are going to come up, but you know what's going to happen and when we're going to ask that question. And you asked all the questions perfectly. One of my favorite parts of the video, might I add, you said something to the effect of like, people aren't going to believe this. And I said, well, I'm glad you're here to document it because
Yeah.
people don't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
people, it's hard to grasp and hard to understand. But I don't know. I had a really good time doing the video with you, and I'm glad that that I did it with you, and that for me it was outside of my comfort zone to kind of go into a different realm, a different stratosphere, atmosphere from like my little corner of the internet that I have here. So it's
Yeah,
been
it's very different, like going from being like director and star to just star, right? Like you're just the talent of the video, and
yeah,
there's a sort of releasing of control that is there that
yeah,
I understand can be a little scary.
yeah. But overall, it was great, and no, dude, some of those finds we came in clutch. Like the plane logo, we came in clutch right there. But people are like, oh, I don't see it in the solds. Go to Terra Peak. It sold on December 29th for $550. So like before we say it didn't sell, learn how to do research first. Like it's on Therapy. It's right there.
And also, I think we had the didn't we have the screenshot, or did I not include that?
Yeah, you have the screenshot, but people don't want to believe it because it's hard to believe that a hat is worth $550. I
Yeah,
get it, but like they're out there, and the knowledge, that's where it comes from, and that makes all the difference because we weren't the first ones to see that hat. How many people passed it?
yeah,
That's what people should be asking themselves instead of why is a hat worth $550. Don't ask why things are worth money. Figure out how we could get more of those. So,
that's
anyway,
so good.
my
What
man,
before I let you go, do you have
please.
any advice for me in my business at this stage?
So when you left here, you said that you took away from my wholesale operation, kind of like the flat price model that I do, and you were
Yeah.
talking about implementing that into yours. What were you? How has that gone, or what are you thinking about for that?
Yeah, it's gone really well actually. So what we have done at the time, so we have all of this inventory that because we buy every video game,
Sure.
there are a lot of video games that don't necessarily work on Amazon. And so
Mm-hmm.
we've had to ask ourselves, what do we do with this stuff? Because I don't want to just not buy it because that limits the utility of quick flips. Like I want
Mm-hmm.
part of it to be I can buy an entire collection of video games and sell it all to Caleb. So if there's this whole category of games that for whatever reason, maybe it's too obscure, or the condition doesn't work or whatever, it doesn't go on Amazon. What do I do with those? And we've
Mm-hmm.
started putting them in bins that are tiered based on their overall market value. So we've got $0 to $10 games, 10 to 20, etc. And what I was going to do was basically catalog every item in that bin, get a total price charting value, which is essentially the sort of market standard for average price aggregation for these
Yeah.
items. Since they sell a lot on eBay, the price charting value
Mm-hmm.
will be like the average value of that game in a given condition.
Yeah.
Take the
It's
full
like.
price charting value of a bin and then sell it for a percentage of that total. But what
Mm-hmm.
I realized from seeing your model is our system could be so much faster if we're willing to just leave a little bit more money on the table and say, instead of pay us 60% of market value, pay us $7 a piece for all of these games that are worth between 10 and $20, right? And then all we have to do is count them up
That's
and box
yeah.
them all
Sure.
up. And the invoice is just here's the number of items and here's the unit cost.
That's right.
And
And
so that kind of opened my eyes to the kind of efficiency that can be achieved there. And it's just like you said, if we're doing our due diligence of making sure that items are in good condition relative to the price people are paying, and they're wanting to come back and saying, hey, do
mm-hmm.
you have any more stuff for me?
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of position that we want to be in. So we haven't had to solicit any new wholesale buyers. We
Nice.
just have bids from like 5 to 10 large players that have good monthly budgets. And whenever we fill a box, we just notify them and send them out. And then, they'll pay us. So definitely grateful for you on that, like kind of transforming the whole model of what do we do with stuff that doesn't go to Amazon.
Yeah, and so what if the person who buys from you that box makes too much money? So what? You know what they're
Right.
gonna do? They're gonna beat down your door for the next box. So like on this kind of stuff, like for me, I don't want to squeeze every single penny. I want them to make as much money as possible where I can, make a living, make my money, earn something respectable. But so what if they make too much money? If they make too much money, I'll end up making too much money. And maybe in the
Right.
beginning, like it's a little bit tough, but at scale, them making too much money is totally undefeated. So
I love it.
that's what
Can't
I
think of
would
a
do.
better way to end.
So that's what I would do. But let people know where they can find you on YouTube and everything you got going on. And again, I do appreciate you for making the time. I know you got a busy schedule. And as always, maybe we could talk again next year as well and see where you're at. Maybe on the way to $10 million, huh?
I hope so. Yeah, definitely excited to check in. These podcasts are a blast for me. If you want to check out the video that I made with Tech, if you haven't seen it yet, the channel is called Phoenix Resale. And second channel is called Renix P Sale. If you're looking for something a little bit zanier and less filtered, where I rant in my basement about these kinds of business concepts.
All right. So check them out over there. And then you got my quick flips too. So if people want to sell some video games to you when they're out on the route, definitely hit that. You pay pretty competitive prices, and that's all anybody should ask, man. So I appreciate it. Thank you very much. As always, be great. Thank you.
Peace.